Hi everyone, it's Leslie from Leslie Writes It All. I know it's been a while, but I have a little holiday painting tutorial for you, and I thought now is the perfect time to share. And here are the supplies that I'll be using. You can feel free to switch it up with whatever materials you have, but I'm using a flat 10 Princeton Heritage brush. My watercolors are from Winsor & Newton, and the gold palette is actually a Fine Tech palette. That I'll be using some gold paint for embellishments, and I didn't include it in the front shot, but I will be using a white gel pen as well. And I don't usually paint with a flat brush unless I'm doing pretty large washes of background color, but for today's purposes I'll be using it because we're just going to be painting a few simple boxes. As you can see, I like to arrange my watercolor palette from warm colors to cooler colors. So I have a lot of my pinks, oranges, yellows on one side, and then the other side I have blues and greens and purples. And purple, I don't know, purple's kind of a controversial cool or warm color to me because it's a combination of a cool and a warm, but I tend to put it more towards the blues, and that's when I tend to use it more. So this project is pretty simple. We're just going to start by painting different sized squares and rectangles, kind of all touching each other. They don't have to be neat or straight. I think it's just a very whimsical type painting, so feel free to just be expressive and make mistakes and kind of make changes as you go. I like for there to be a variation of color, so as you can see, I start off with a yellow and then I add some green, or I'll start off with some pink and add some orange. So just play around with the colors. It's also an exercise in oops, it looks like sorry about that, technical difficulties there. Let me adjust a little bit. Basically what I was saying is you want to let the box edges touch each other so you can see that really nice lime green color bled into this aqua blue green color box that I just painted. So I like to see the watercolors kind of play with each other and create kind of unexpected bleeds. That's totally up to you. I just love to see what the watercolors do, and I love the unpredictable nature of watercolors, so I just have some fun with it. And as you can see, I tend to paint kind of in the Roy G. Biv sequence. It just makes the colors less muddied. For instance, if I painted red right next to green and they touched, it tends to not blend as well as colors that may be closer to each other on the color wheel. So you can see I have pinks, oranges, yellows kind of close to each other. And then where I transition to the cool colors is with that kind of lime green color, and the yellow tends to bleed a little bit into the blue green, and that's perfectly fine by me. You just want to avoid colors that when they touch can actually create kind of muddy colors like brown or gray, because you want to keep this piece vibrant and colorful. And now we're going to switch over to some gold paint for the lettering and embellishments. I originally thought that I was going to use a round 5, but I think just for the purpose of the lettering it's going to be too thick, so I switched it to a round 3. If you don't have different size watercolor brushes, I would just recommend using a pen if you have it. I have a few tutorials on faux calligraphy if you search for those, but basically I'm starting with a pencil, writing down a little message. So I chose to write "'Tis the season" and include the year. I think this would be a really cute card. Also, if you want to frame it for some holiday artwork, just to greet any guests that you might have, or just to decorate your home, I think that's also appropriate. So like I said, I'm really terrible at waiting for my paint to dry, so that is why I'm kind of painting a little bit funny on the lettering. Normally I would just brush letter because, you know, watercolor brushes do create thin and thick lines pretty well, but as you can see, I'm trying to avoid touching the paint, so I'm just gonna paint these letters in like they aren't letters, and you're just painting and following the lines. I don't know if that makes sense, but a lot of calligraphers do say that calligraphy to them isn't really writing letters but more drawing them. So hopefully that helps you kind of visualize how you're going to fill in the penciled lettering part. And you know, I'm not getting any commission, so I don't want anyone to think that this is like a plug, that's a sponsored plug, but I do really love the Fine Tech Gold palette. It's probably one of the most opaque metallic palettes that I've ever used. So I love that it comes on like a really full and bold gold color. I don't like to see the pencil markings after because they don't tend to erase very well. So a paint like this pretty easily covers most of your pencil markings, and you just have to kind of go over it and make sure that you have enough paint coverage. I've tried other brands that don't work as well, so if you can get your hands on a Fine Tech palette, I think it's one of the best ones out there. And I don't letter as fast as or paint as fast as I used to, so I'm just gonna take my time here. I also didn't used to pencil everything in, but I realized that I just have very limited time now to mess up, so that's why I did make sure that we penciled in what we wanted to write before we went in with the paint. This part is totally optional, but I love to add a little bit of splatter. It creates kind of a whimsical messiness, but also a little bit of sparkle with the gold. So I just make sure to get a little bit more water, dab it in the gold, and then kind of tap the paintbrush over the areas that you want to have some gold splatter on. And now we're going to use a white gel pen to add some embellishments. I really love the Uniball Signo gel pen in white. I use it so much that that pen is probably no good anymore. It looks like it's down to its last bit of ink. So I'm gonna switch it to a brand new pen, but my suspicion is that the paint has not completely dried. So if you are like me and really impatient, just want to finish your piece, I would ask that you take a coffee break or run out somewhere, because I am clearly smudging everything. If you see smudges like that, go ahead and wet the paper where the smudge is and it should erase it. But this number is going to give me a lot of trouble because I think it's the slowest to dry. So yeah, this definitely isn't working. My paint is not dry enough, so I'm going to take a quick intermission to try to get this dried faster. The baby is sleeping, so I can't really use anything too loud. So I'm just gonna shake it like those old Polaroids. Okay, hopefully it's a little bit drier now, and I'm gonna add different little designs onto each box, so it's to represent different wrapping paper. This one I'm gonna start off with a few stars and dots. As you can see, I tried doing stripes on the first pink box. I'm gonna let that dry a little bit more before I attempt it again, and I'll see if this one is dry. But basically, just, I mean, I try to use simple shapes. I tend to use dots, circles, stars, hearts. So just vary it up so that each package kind of has a cute, whimsical design to it. And that's going to be totally up to you how you want to do it. Yeah, some more stars. I gotta warn you too though, if you're using a gel pen and you do put it over watercolor that's not completely dry, it can clog your pen. So I did spend some time trying to unclog it. Basically use some water to roll the ballpoint over, and then kind of just use a scratch piece of paper to get all that excess paint that clogged it up. As you can tell, I'm still smudging that 2021, so I'm gonna keep fixing that. But we're gonna go ahead and continue on the pieces that are dry to add more designs. Like I said, I use a lot of very simple shapes. This one's gonna have some hearts. The next one is just a really plain polka dot type design. I don't focus on making it perfect. Again, this is very whimsical and fun, so just random places work. And the boxes that I concentrated the most color and water on are the ones that I'm having the most difficult time with. There's a lot of paint that's clogging up my pen, it's also not coming out super white because it's kind of blending with the paint. So I'm going to switch gears. If you have a paint pen in white, or even paint in white, you might want to consider that if you're having a hard time with the gel pen, like I am here, which is kind of frustrating me a little bit, but we're going to do our best to carry on. It's taking some experimentation. I just tried a Sharpie paint pen and didn't work so well, and I'm going to see what else I can use. But if you do have that Fine Tech palette, some silver might work really nicely. I happen to find a very old white brush pen that's pre-filled, so I'm going to see if this will work for some of the thicker lines, and it looks like it's doing the job just fine, so I might use that to finish some of the other parts of the piece. If you don't have something like that or want to use white gel pen, just make sure that your entire piece is fully dry. If you have a heat gun, I would suggest blasting it. If not, letting it dry for at least a few hours or overnight would be best. Yeah, I just don't have the patience for that, unfortunately. So I am just gonna make do with what we have. If you are wondering, this is the Kuretake Zig white brush pen. I don't tend to use it too much because the color is not super white, which if I'm writing on colored paper, I really do like it to be super white and at least bold. But for the purposes of this painting here, it works really well. So if you're looking for a white that's maybe not super bright, it is a little bit watery, this might work for you, but for lettering it's not a great option for me, so I don't tend to use it for lettering. And I'm going to try my best to switch back to the gel pen so I can get some finer details on all these wrapping papers. Here I'm just going to draw some 6-sided snowflakes, keeping it real simple since these are really small snowflakes. I'm just adding a few dots or like leaf type structures to them. And once you're done with the white detailing, I'm going to go back and add some colorful bows on some of them. On a few of them, I just included the white, I guess, ribbon. And then these other ones, I'm going to go back in the colors that I painted them and add, you know, little festive bows to them. That's pretty much it. It's just a really simple piece. You can do this with your kids if they enjoy painting simple shapes like, you know, these boxes. It lets them play with different colors. You can help them with the lettering. But I think this is just a really cute piece to have around the house. And that's it from me. This is Leslie of Leslie Writes It All. Let me know if you have any questions.